What if I told you the United States, the world's most visited countries, being quietly abandoned by the very nations that once filled its airports, packed its hotels, and poured billions into its economy? You're not imagining it. This is a global travel revolt in real time. International travel to the U.S. is collapsing. Not gradually, not hypothetically, but fast and with consequences the average American hasn't even begun to understand. In 2024, international visitors spent nearly $2.9 trillion in the U.S., supporting over 15 million jobs. But that economic engine is sputtering, and experts warn that if current declines hold, we could see $21 billion in losses by the end of 2025 alone. So the real question is, why are so many countries suddenly turning their backs on America? And is this just a warning, Senor, the beginning of something much bigger? Chapter 7. The Canadian Exodus. From friendly neighbor to reluctant visitor. Canada was once the bedrock of U.S. tourism. In fact, in 2024, over 20 million Canadians crossed the border more than from any other country. But in 2025, the numbers are falling off a cliff. Border crossings are down over 20%, and certain key routes like Buffalo to Niagara and Detroit to Windsor have seen declines as high as 45%. Why the sudden drop? Tariffs, political tensions, border wait times that now stretch hours, and Canadian citizens say they feel unwelcome, like visiting the U.S. is no longer safe or worth the hassle. After the U.S. slapped new tariffs on Canadian goods, online searches for American vacations plummeted 48% within weeks. And here's where it gets dangerous. Canadian tourism contributes over $21 billion annually to the U.S. economy. A 10% drop threatens 14. Zero jobs in hotels, attractions, and cross-border retail. The ripple effect is already being felt in cities like Seattle, Minneapolis, and Buffalo. So ask yourself, how did we go from strongest allies to economic Cold War in just 18 months? And what happens if this isn't just a dip, but a new normal? Chapter 6. Europe turns its back. A quiet continental rebellion. Europe, once the crown jewel of transatlantic tourism, is now quietly pulling away from the US, and few in Washington seem to be paying attention. Nations like the UK, Germany, Denmark, Finland, and Portugal have all issued travel advisories against the United States in 2025. These warnings aren't just symbolic. In Germany alone, 56% of citizens now say they view the US unfavorably, a historic low. Summer bookings from Europe have dropped by over 25%, and major tour operators are diverting customers toward destinations like Canada, Japan, and Costa Rica. Visa wait times are now a diplomatic disaster. For some countries, U.S. visa processing takes up to 700 days. That's nearly 2 years to get approved. No surprise that thousands are giving up entirely and rerouting their plans elsewhere. Europe's retreat isn't just about inconvenience, it's about values. Many Europeans now cite political hostility, gun violence, and border treatment as reasons to stay away. Could this signal a much deeper cultural divorce between America and its closest democratic allies? Chapter 5. Mexico, a relationship under Siege. Mexico has always been the U.S.'s second biggest source of international visitors. Cross-border connections are strong culturally, economically, and personally. But in 2025, even that bond is being tested. Air travel from Mexico dropped 6% in early 2025. Land crossings, especially in Texas and Arizona, are also down sharply, with many border towns reporting double-digit revenue declines. What's fueling the backlash? Stricter border enforcement, an increasingly aggressive tone from U.S. leadership, and growing resentment over immigration policies that treat Mexican nationals like criminals when they're just coming to spend tourism dollars. This shift isn't just about travel, it's a reflection of a diplomatic relationship unraveling at the seams. If Mexicans start avoiding the U.S., border economies from El Paso to San Diego will suffer an economic gut punch they may not recover from. Chapter 4. Asia pulls back. The silent withdrawal. Asia has long been seen as a growth market for American tourism, but the tides are shifting. In 2025, countries like Japan, South Korea, and even India are seeing a 5 to 10% drop in U.S. bound travel bookings. Why? Safety concerns, visa issues, rising anti-Asian sentiment in U.S. cities. In many cases, Asian families now cite fears about being profiled or detained as reasons to skip that long-awaited trip to Los Angeles or New York. And with Asian travelers spending an average of $200 per visit, their absence hits especially hard in major tourism markets like Hawaii, San Francisco, and Las Vegas. Worse yet, global tour companies are adjusting their itineraries, prioritizing Australia, Canada, and Western Europe over the US for the first time in decades. Could the world's fastest-growing economies be permanently rethinking their relationship with America? Chapter 3. The Visa Crisis. Bureaucracy or Border Wall. Here's a stat that should terrify U.S. tourism leaders. Visa processing times from many countries now exceed 700 days. That's not a typo. Travelers are waiting nearly 2 years just to step foot in the U.S. This crisis isn't just bad policy, it's killing tourism. Families cancel trips, students pick Canada or Australia instead. Business travelers go elsewhere. And nations like Brazil, Turkey, and South Africa are now openly accusing the U.S. of discriminating against their citizens. Some have started reciprocal bans, others are quietly boycotting American businesses, and travel influencers with millions of followers are encouraging their fans to trend of skip America until the system is fixed. So here's the real question. Is this a bureaucratic breakdowner, a deliberate message to the world that only a select few are welcome? Chapter 2. The political fallout. Is travel now a weapon? What happens when tourism becomes a political weapon? In 2025, we're finding out. The White House has floated proposals to expand travel bans to include up to 48 countries. While national security is the stated goal, the global response has been swift and furious. Travel bloggers, civil rights organizations, and even foreign governments have blasted the U.S. for what they call institutionalized discrimination. And the backlash is showing up in hard numbers. Flight bookings are down, hotel chains are slashing forecasts, and entire regions are rethinking their reliance on American tourism. Cases of international travelers being detained or interrogated at U.S. airports are also on the rise. Some are held for days without cause. These stories have gone viral on TikTok and Twitter, creating a chilling effect for millions of potential visitors. So, is this about security? Or is the U.S. sending a message that it no longer wants the world at its doorstep? Chapter 1. The Economic Fallout. What's really at risk? Let's break down the numbers. In 2019, the U.S. welcomed 78 million international visitors. By 2024, that number had already slipped to 72 million. And 2025 projections suggest the figure could dip below 65 million, a level not seen since the post-9/11 era. Each lost traveler represents more than just a missed hotel booking. On average, international visitors spend $40 per trip, more than double what domestic travelers contribute. That means losing even 5 million travelers equates to $20 billion in lost revenue. Jobs are already disappearing. Airlines are cutting routes, tour companies are going under, and cities like Orlando, San Francisco, and Miami are seeing their tourism economies teeter on collapse. And here's what no one's saying. This isn't just about tourism. This is about soft power, America's ability to influence the world through openness, culture, and connection. If that dies, what replaces it? This is no longer just a down year for tourism. It's a full-scale rejection, a global boycott fueled by political resentment, cultural division, and bureaucratic failure. Millions of travelers are turning away from the United States, and they may not come back. The result? Billions in economic losses, tens of thousands of jobs gone, a cultural shift that could isolate the U.S. from the very people it once inspired. Unless drastic changes are made to reforming visa systems, restoring diplomacy, and rebranding the American experience, the boycott will only grow, and by 2029, the U.S. might find itself no longer at the center of the global travel map, but on the outside looking in. So, the question now is, can America fix this before it's too late? Or are we witnessing the end of the U.S. as a global travel superpower?